Okay, why my emotional preparation doesn't work is very explainable. There's incredible ways that you can make sure that you have your emotional preparation work if you just simply know the technique. So, the major reason why emotional preparation does not work is because you have not actually put stimulus inside of yourself. There's nothing that's internally stimulating you. So this is very common because typically a lot of the times, even earlier on with the early stages of the work, is that a lot of people will actually learn repetition, or they'll learn various different acting techniques that are all idea based. And it's although ideas can be incredible things and they're very intricate things, they're logical. So what people do is they try to do an emotional preparation, and they try and emotionally prepare themselves upon logic. Well, that doesn't stimulate them emotionally. So let's go through this. It's fascinating. It's very interesting. Now, if we look at the seduction of the idea, so a lot of people here, they're doing their emotional preparation and they're trying to seduce themselves with this idea. Well, first of all, seduction is a thing that there's a very big reason why seduction is seduction. It's this thing that's tantalizing, but it doesn't actually have any real meat. So you've got to be able to have the situation where you've got to be able to, you might have a great idea. The idea might be fantastic, but unless it actually does stimulation, in terms of emotional stimulation, you're not going to be able to achieve anything, which is important, because the whole point of emotional preparation in the beginning it has to be because you're stimulated. You've got to be able to work in a way that is able to stimulate your emotional life so that you can take the logic of the writer and the logic of the production and the purpose of the project, and you carry that along an emotional river. Now, here's another mistake people make. The biggest thing is people think that a feeling is an emotion. It's not. A feeling is very different than an emotion. And you can have a feeling one moment and it can be right gone the next moment. And you won't even know where it went. Just like ideas. Ideas come and go. You might have a very, very good feeling. But unless you've gotten a feeling that's consistent and all of a sudden it's started to change into something that's emotional, you don't have an emotion. So you could be spending time in your emotional preparation, but you're not actually developing anything that stimulates you emotionally. So you're like, you could be thinking up all kinds of fantastic ideas. Like ideas about how things affect you, but without actually being affected. So that would be equivalent to taking a whole bunch of sand and pouring it in a lake and thinking that you're going to have a bigger lake. No, you have more ideas. There's more ideas to work with, but if they're not stimulating you, then you're not in a situation where you're empowered by them to be able to work, to be the undercurrent of the acting. So your goal is to be the undercurrent of the acting and allow the script to be on top. You want to be able to resonate with whatever stimulates you. So you've got to be able to look at this and realize that your stimulation has to be something, preferably, it has to be something that's personal to you. Because something that's personal to you is going to be able to resonate with you possibly deeper. So you have a personal feeling about something, those usually are the things that turn into emotions. Personal feelings can turn into emotions. Now, just to be very clear, this works both ways. Personal feelings sometimes are not ready to be worked with in emotions. They may not be ready to be worked with in emotional preparation. Personal feelings have to be in a process where you're willing and capable of being able to give that feeling away to see if you get something back. You've got to be willing to give up the element of whatever you come up with your emotional preparation. That's how it works. Acting, you get the stimulation, the emotional stimulation. You're willing to be able to give up whatever's inside of you into your acting, into your work. And then you work off of what you get. And when you do that, all of a sudden, things start happening inside of the imaginary circumstances of your acting world. Because you've been willing to be able to not sacrifice yourself physically, but be able, or even emotionally, but you've been willing to be able to sacrifice that part of yourself emotionally so that you're able to look and be able to let go is often the phrase, but it's you want to be able to let it go into the work. So your job with your emotional preparation is to literally take what you've been, first of all, be able to self-stimulate. So you've got to stimulate yourself emotionally. And then once you have that, you're able to, your job is to take that element and bring it in, and you've got the responsibility at this point as an actor to put that into your work and let it go, not knowing what's going to happen. So you want to be able to get into the anticipation, where you've got less anticipation of what this actually does. So if you're seducing yourself in your emotional preparations, you're going to be in a situation where your emotional preparation doesn't work. You're going to be in a place where it may not activate you. Now, because emotion is not a feeling, you could look at feelings as being the river, the rivers with water and the streams with water that come into the lake. And the emotion is this quiet, still, placid lake or pond. And then you use that placidity to be able to have that solid thing called emotion, to be able to then avail yourself to your acting partner. So your acting partner is capable of then hopefully they're capable of seeing that in those moments. Now when you're working on a part with emotional preparation, you go into yourself and you make sure that you have emotional stimulation within the area being asked that you're going to hopefully be able to work out in your acting, so that you have a part of the scene. And let's say you have a part of the scene where you're genuinely surprised, and that's the scene, and you're going to be in a situation where you're surprised. And there's some fantastic ways to be able to do this with emotional preparation. But you want to be able to warm up the other possibilities that you're going to be open towards being able to be surprised. So then there's all sorts of things that you can do with this. But it's the difference is that you don't put yourself in logic. So you're taking yourself out of logic and you're putting yourself into a receiving mode with the other actor. Now there's one more point here that has to be said of why my emotional preparation doesn't work. And that is, if you're coming up with reasons for the door, or reasons for your scenes, or for your I don't know, whatever you call them, scenes or your plays or whatever. If you're looking at that and you're in a situation and you're putting logic into your emotional preparation, you're not going to get emotional availability back. You're not emotionally stimulating yourself. You're going to be playing an idea, or you're going to be maybe playing part of an idea and partially being real. You're not going to be the full echelons of availability to your actor. You're not going to be able to just rely on those things called instincts in acting. So you've got to be able to really process this and understand, are you putting logic in your emotional preparation? Because if you're putting logic into your emotional preparation, you're going to start locking yourself up with too many thoughts, ideas, and you're going to be in a situation where you're going to wonder to yourself, what's really, you're not going to be in the same kind of work. Now, the point of this entire thing is to be able, the point of emotional preparation is to be able to get into a situation. You're emotionally stimulated. You're in a situation where you then take that emotional stimulation, and as your job as the actor, you take that emotional stimulation and you make sure that the other person has it. And then you let it go. You don't try to put in your emotional baggage to the other actor, although there's a little bit of trickery to that, because there is expressions. You bring it to them, and then you see what they might be able to respond. You're carrying over this emotional weight of yours so that they have an initial impression, and then you just see how it goes. Maybe they notice it, maybe they don't. And if they notice your emotion and start working off of your emotion, you go absolutely moment to moment in your acting. You go in every single way. You go in every single way. You go into this thing where you've got this ability to just absolutely, just to get enthralled. And your scenes might happen, you will not be able to know how much time's passed when you're working this way. You might have an idea, but you really don't, because the thing is because that's how involved you are. And that involvement should come from the emotional preparation that is not just putting the idea or just working on the idea. It's really building yourself up so that you've got something that you're personally affected by, and then bringing that in. And you work that way, and you'll have results over and over and over. It will always work. Something will work. Now, sometimes the directors will ask, and they'll say they didn't get what they wanted. They'll say they thought that the scene was going to be something else. They wanted to see something else in the scene happen. Well, if that's the case, then you go back to yourself and you make sure that you change what your emotional preparation is to be able to work with their critique. And you make that adjustment, and you make that emotional adjustment. And if you make that emotional adjustment correctly, you should be able to do the exact same principle. You carry in your emotional stimulation, you put it into your acting work, and then you put your attention, your focus on the other person, and see what happens. And you should be just as interested in them as you were with your emotional preparation. Try to be very involved with them. Very, 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 very participant. You want to be very, very participating. You want to be very entrenched. You want to know their responses when they're speaking. You want to have that kind of intrigue and interest. And when you have that kind of intrigue and interest in acting, other people are going to want to watch you. It's just the way it is. Because it's interesting. Nobody knows what's going to happen because there's going to be this spark of this, and it should be several sparks that will happen within the work where people just don't know what's going to happen next. And this is how you build it up. It's no secret. This is exactly how it is. Only a few people have done this over the years, and not that many. Some people have really struggled. A lot of people have tried to be able to work with emotional preparation. And a lot of people have always thought that the idea of emotional preparation was the only thing that they needed to do so that they could only get a small feeling. But you have the options to do more than that with it. So you might as well work with your emotions. You might as well have your emotional preparation be full, and you might as well really do the work. Really do the emotional stimulation. Really work at it so that it's not just you conceiving or working it out on some sort of idea or concept, but you've really got something that's alive and awake within you. And then as the training develops, you get to the point where sometimes you do this to yourself with the emotional preparation and you're not sure what it's actually done. You know you've done something emotionally, you feel it emotionally, yourself is awake, you're alert to something, but you don't know what it is. That's fantastic. So then you discover with your partner what it is. How is the actual situation? What are you feeling? Maybe you don't know fully what you're feeling, but you know you've woken something up. So this is the way that you can approach it if you choose to. And try it out. Let me know in the comments. Like the video if you feel like it. And have your reasons include emotional stimulation. When you have your reasons include emotional stimulation, you're going to be able to have something that you have available to you in your acting. And it's going to be this rich, tangible thing called emotional life. So really work it out. And, don't be a stranger to the emotion that's inside of you. Don't be afraid of it. And it will work out better for your acting.